Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah, you are now rocking with the best. You are now entering into A-Deuce territory. Comprised of Supernova Slum, Holistic Medicine Man, Aseer the Duke of Tears. Been here for about 1 billion years, but we're about to get right into it right now. So yeah, Supernova Slum, let these niggas know.
Yeah, you have no idea what it took for us to get here. Crown in my center, crown representative. Southside, more some planet Brooklyn. Killing and killing, my rhythm is reading, I'm beating you haters is where from. Wait up for Ada, us natives, no fakers. Salute us, maneuver us, so sonic women group us. Who us, Supernova Slum, you can see it seven. All in our here, we the warriors men. From the Falcon clan, watch wing that expand. Let's right brain, think about it, come again. Upcoming, go face gangster, with the guys from my side. Make the dead come alive, ain't too with the truth. My eyes 4-2, high hair root. Heat up from the feet up, get the skeleton to the streets. Beat suck, hey, suck, hey, suck. You know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks on them things they live in. Hey, suck, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks.
Well, I would like to introduce myself, so my name is Aseer. Cause I'm a hoot to tears, and I've been here for years. And I'm about to cold rock, cold shock your ears, and make a pain disappear like it wasn't even there. And listen to my words in the Bible of a head, and boom, it's like I'm there taking away your fear that you thought was out there. It was really in here. You're ferocious like a bear, but I'm gentle like a dove. I always come prepared, cause I come from up above. Just a blood like I'm warrior. Live my life victorious, just as big as I can. Control the crowd with my hands, make the dumb understand that it's the Duke of Tears and Mr. Medicine. Turn a whack jam into American dancing. Have the party people doing handstands in Roseland.
A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks on them things they live in. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks on them things they live in. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks on them things they live in. A's up, you know what it is, what it is. It's a systematic scene. It's two kings, two guns, two minutes with their bad chicks on them things they live in.
Hey everybody, you're on live at Super Heru Radio. I'm glad everybody can come in. We're here again. I am your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host, Selena the Empress of 10,000 Years, Saga Assad, Amor, my brothers. Big shout out to all the Super Heru fam. Thank you for being patient with me for emailing, getting back to everybody with the emails. We had a lot of emails from last week's show. So thank you for being patient with me and allowing me to respond in the time that we can. Give thanks to all the ancestors who have provided a way for us to be able to commune and actively see results in what it is that we be building on cohesively together. Thank you to you, the Super Heru family, the people, the true Herus that are out there that have looked out for us and have been supporting us from the beginning. We're moving on we're moving into our 2.5 years being on, so I definitely want to give respect and give thanks to everybody who's ever participated, who's ever bought a DVD, who's ever gave me a call, who's ever told me about a street hustler who's bootlegging my shit, who's ever kept it real, who's ever kept it real with me, who's ever had an opinion about my work, whether they like it or not. I want to give respect and thanks to you. Also, anybody that's ever donated to the cause in terms of us getting our projects and things together to present to you guys, the people. Thank you for that. You know, there's an old saying in war that you never give a person too much thanks because if you thank somebody too much, they often don't think that you're sincere. But that's usually because people don't really, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it's actually the opposite going on. I think that happens because most people don't say thank you for the shit that they're actually thankful for. We only wind up being thankful for things when we wind up losing them. So before we could even invest on that tip, I just want to say peace. Just breaking the thing off, that's all. It's in my hand, I got it. You know, I just want to say peace and thanks. You know what I mean? You can never be too thankful, especially when things are going right. So with that, I definitely want to shout out in that respect to the people. Yeah, I did. And that's basically that on that. You know what I mean? On that. So, where do we begin? We always start with the current events, you know, to keep it actualized and real. So we can go into what's been going on recently. If you've noticed, since all this stuff has been going on in the Middle East, again, since the apparent third time killing of the dude, it's real interesting now that you don't really hear about what's going on in Japan, dealing with the nuclear fallout and meltdown. You have to also do the knowledge that this so-called government is so weak and lax. And I'm good, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, they get to a point where they've created a situation where they're perpetually behind schedule. So as that schedule is constantly being re-altered and retuned up, the proverbial they are at a constant odds in maintaining their position. So remember, this whole thing, in order for them to do what they need to do, or at least they've convinced themselves that in order for them to do what they need to do, they all need to get their Antichrist popping. But unfortunately, well, I won't say unfortunately for them, they don't really have their shit together enough to be able to procure that. So what's been happening is that you've been seeing a lot of pop-up Antichrists that they've basically been getting rid of to kind of like circumvent their overall agenda. Because see, when the so-called popes decided that they were going to be the lords of the temporal energy or the temporal powers over the planet, that means that, you know, when you say you God, you know, you got to be responsible the way God is responsible. And God, one thing about the true creative God is that it does not discriminate. You know, the rain that it brings down into the world falls on the just and the unjust alike. So it's not so much about, you know, being a good person and that's what's going to keep you out of the shit. It's not so much about the juxtaposition of good and bad anymore. And to keep it real with you, I don't think it ever was. I think it's more about understanding how righteous one can be in the moment as the moment presents itself for righteousness. And if one cannot be that in that moment, then obviously they fall onto the other side or the opposite side of righteousness, which is unrighteousness or what we would call evil. Yet, as hot and cold water are two extremes of the birth of the same polarity, the same can be said for good and evil. As a perpetual concept, or as, let's say, an opera of dualism that consistently occupies the mental capacity of this density. Like I said before, what we perceive as unity on this dimension is seen as duality. And in the higher dimensions, duality is seen as singularity. So everything within this reality that we perceive as one thing is actually in its altered or reversed state. So when we say that we are, again, two-dimensional, three-dimensional projections of two-dimensional information, this is what we mean in terms of the corresponding energy. And then, therefore, that means that everything, again, that is non-tangible, anything that you cannot touch is actually more significant and more substantial than the things that you can touch. So this is why materialism is such a big thing in third density, because those people who are morally, spiritually, socially, geopolitically bankrupt, you see, they have to have money, because if not, these people would be totally savage and be totally at odds with everything else in creation. Therefore, those of us that have been on the planet for the shorter amount of period, actually have more luck dealing with the material realm in terms of the monetary aspect that goes along with that. So case in point, because Caucasian people or people who perceive themselves to be white, no matter what phenotypical color or archetypical visage they come in, if you are operating from a materialist perspective, that means that you are actually a spiritual infant in this world, which essentially we all are. However, some of us are more inclined to the infinite than others, just due to the fact that a lot of people in third density have a deep predisposition to bullshit. Meaning that distraction is more motivating than action. Confusion is more of a motivating force than getting to the bottom of something. Now we all know people like this, and people like this exhibit and are constantly around us. But regardless of how much they're around and how much they want to do or not doing, it's not about them. It's about how we perceive them and their actions as to how much we internalize to let go. So specifically, when we think about what's going on, when we say things like, well, I don't support the war, but I support the troops. Think about that. What you're saying, or what the person is saying when they say that, is that they don't support the actual purpose of the war, but they support the people fighting the war. So they don't support the people who have created the situation to fight and kill people. They just support the people that are over there actually killing the people. You see? Hypocrisy has become so much a part of the American physiology and the overall American psyche that we have this insulated version of what we perceive ourselves to be. Yet, because we don't look at ourselves in an objective fashion, we wind up falling out of sorts with the greater world around us, because we get involved in the illusion of who and what we are as opposed to who and what we are, which is a deep problem when it comes to actually sorting out things in your life that are keeping you from the greater goals that you wish to accomplish. So when it comes to things like war and stuff like that, the enemy is always going to be on the up and up with that, because that is the aspect of itself that gives it a full range of expression, which is why when the devil goes to war, the occultists in his army usually evoke Mars, and they will invoke Venus, just because they want the purpose of the war that they fight to have, let's say, a beautiful occurrence. So that way, when the war is going down and everybody's on the battlefield being cut up and shot up and slashed up or whatever, there's a certain degree of clarity in it coming from the so-called glory that it means to come from dying on the battlefield. So essentially, that's cool, but on a broader scale, it leaves one open to delusions of grandeur. It leaves one open to be or to seem more altruistic about whatever war or conflict they're fighting for whatever reason. So the running joke in the Middle East is that the Americans is basically over there trying to bring freedom of democracy to the people. they bring in something to somebody that, now you know, if you was ever in a restaurant and a waitress came over and brought you a dish that you didn't ask for, you would be hesitant to accept it because you don't know who sent it to you, what's in the dish. You may not even eat that. That is essentially what's happening in the Middle East as we speak. Due to the fact that they have already, in a sense, destabilized Afghanistan to such a degree. Now, they've been purposely destabilizing Afghanistan since 2001 because part of the plan in that New American Century, anybody can go online and Google, the New American Century, a plan for a New American Century written by Paul Wolfowitz and a couple of these other assholes. But anyway, when you read the plan, they needed to basically get into Afghanistan because Afghanistan is the number one distributor, or the number one producer of poppy, a.k.a. opium, in the world. And coincidentally, when the Soviets took over during the 80s, when they went through their little war or whatever, and they were fighting against the Taliban, or at least when the Taliban was on the side of the so-called United States and they were giving them their money and stuff, opium production, heroin production went up a little bit when the Soviets came in, and after the Soviets got kicked out, it basically went back down to zero. It was like nobody was selling heroin and nothing like that around. You know what I mean? It wasn't until 2002, though, when the United States went into when the United States went into Afghanistan is when the whole thing really went to hell. And opium production, they said, went up at least 85 to 95%. So how do you go from zero, you know what I mean, and then within a year be attacked over here in the United States, these niggas go up to operation 100%. This basically, again, shows you what the real purpose is. Now, the question is, why would the government want to sell dope? Now, all you got to do is talk to somebody who grew up in the 80s, and they'll give you a whole diatribe on that. Trickle-down theory, Reaganomics, crack, Wall Street, Grease Good, all that type of stuff. Those would give you a whole dossier on that. But the real reason is because I don't want to degenerate. A lot of the people in China, one of the ways that they maintain control over there is there's certain allowances for things like opium and all that. Because remember, in a totalitarian regime, the idea is to totally control the people. But on a broader sense, it's to keep the people in a constant state of control. So no one government can control every aspect of its citizenry. So what it has to do is put things in place to break down the citizenry from the inside, and then create a situation where people within the citizenry are bringing people to the government for prosecution. So if China owns a huge portion of the debt that the United States owns, then ultimately, let's say if China owns 90% of that debt, then what they got to do is own 90% of the drugs. So at least then what they can hope to do is basically take over some of them drug markets and basically string out or put new strains of heroin, opium, whatever they in there to further retard the people. Because we have to remember, the phase of war that we're in right now, being that we're in World War V, this phase of the war is all about humanitarian aid. It's all about false flag and humanitarian aid war. You know what I'm saying? Which the beginning of this happened in the 80s. For those of us that remember the 80s, remember USA for Africa? Well, if only Ethiopia was starving, how is it that they named the whole song Africa? Because when I was a kid and I saw We Are the World on TV, and I saw all of these malnutrition Ethiopians, you know what I mean, with flies and stuff on them, because it said USA for Africa, and then they showed the whole picture of the continent in the logo. So it makes you think that everybody in Africa is starving or is in some type of genocide refugee situation. And that's not in the case, even today. Everywhere in Africa ain't popping like that. They only tell you about certain parts. And what's sad is that due to the fact that most, if not all, of the African powers that are out there, that are government coming down, trickle down through the government, all of them is in bed with Europe and the United States. So the ruling elite of all of these countries are the same. The same despot that you got in Libya is the same despot you got in Africa, you know what I mean? Only thing in Africa back in the days, he was Mobutu or Charles Taylor or somebody else. But all of these people, if you go and you do the history on them, they all have direct allegiances and affiliations with clandestine services of United States British intelligence. That's just what it is. So, thereby, government itself is an operation of these intelligence agencies. But these intelligence agencies are not just the typical alphabet people, that alphabet gangs, CIA, FBI, NSA, DOD, all of the other ones that they got out there, which, by the way, are not a part of the United States government. The United States government has controlling interests. Well, I don't even say it has controlling interests. It has a large portion of interest financially in agencies like FBI, CIA. But if you do the knowledge on the incorporation papers and all of this stuff like that, all of these are private agencies that the government basically outsources to. This is why you didn't have a CIA or OSS or FBI or any of that during the initial founding of the country, because the original people who founded the country were against shit like that. That's why we went to war in the first place. Yet, due to the American version of history and how it is trickled down and brought down to the people, we are taught to believe that we're always a democracy. But the actual word democracy did not come into existence until the late 1800s. You know what I'm saying? So, because they base everything they do, Western civilization, on Greece and Rome specifically. Yet if that's the case, then what are all of these obelisks around for? What are all of these pyramids that they be building around the country and all of that is for? Where do these things come from? Why is there so much about Greece and all of that? And why all of the Grecian and all these other deities, or why are they all based on earlier deities, Because civilization is always built on top of itself. In every civilization, the gods of one civilization become the devils in the next. And that's the cycle of life on a material level. Because everything here is conflict. Because conflict and the coming together of dynamic opposites is what creates reality, physical reality itself. So the thrusting of two people actually produce the pushing out of life. So the thrusting that creates the life, the bearing down and pushing out that brings the life into physical existence is all the same ritual. Because that is the divine initiation that we as material beings all are initiated into. So the truest temple, the truest lodge, the truest mosque, the truest cathedral or whatever that you could do that besides the human body is the physical earth that we all have been initiated into. And the masonry that we then practice as man and woman is how to build within this physical reality and destroy that which we do not need to maintain it. The enemy understands this, if anything, even though it is bestial and it's primal and all of that and feral. the military aspect of itself is what keeps the civilization of Western civilization in order. It's not the government per se. It's who is controlling the military. You can vote all you want. You can march all you want. You can do it all you want. Whoever's running the military is running the country. And unfortunately, our military is beset by institutional problems based on its inception. And the inception of the military, as it was really made as a means to protect the people, first of all. Yet, whenever you have a situation where the government becomes corrupt, the military is always used as a strong arm to steady the actual development of the population. Thereby, the more the military or the more the government constricts its grip around the sand, the more the sand seeps through the fingers, sand being us. So, backlash, show you how God don't like ugly and cute neither. Because there's a guy named Dominique Strauss. This guy was the chairman or head of the IMF. And recently, he started divesting some of his money into technologies, into quote unquote free technology. It was actually urging some of the third world population to do the same. So, based on that, a week later, they hit him with child pornography or pedophile charges. Now, he's a pedophile, which he probably is. I'm not debating that fact. I'm just saying that it's not just the fact that he's a pedophile that they're going after him. It's the fact that he's been using his money or whatever to divest into other so-called free technology. Case in point, on the opposite side of that spectrum, the person that people call the president, the thorn. The person that people call the president has, or allegedly is signing into existence or has signed into existence a bill to basically get rid of alternative form of medicines, to almost basically force people into corporatized medicine. So like supplements and stuff like that, they want to kind of like steer people away from, and they've used him as the person to promote that agenda, as usual, because it is what it is. He is who he is. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, it's all going down, and the funny thing is that the people who's probably going to make the biggest think about this first is going to be those Caucasian hippie / free love type Caucasian people who, really is not down with that. Because, they're the ones who, in a sense, have the handle on the pot of who's healthy and who's not, who gets to do yoga, who don't. And really the only reason why they don't have yoga programs and all of that stuff in the hood, like if they had yoga and movements and things like that in gym, instead of just the traditional military form of exercise that they give these kids, the kids would go to gym more. Kids would go to school more. However, we're not dealing with the fact that schools themselves are military organizations. They are military installations. They are military occupations in occupied territory, which is why if the government was to, let's say, come into your town and lock your town down like they do in the movie, the first base of operations they set up in is the school. This is why when you have to vote to bring your so-called president into existence, you got to bring him into, you got to go vote at the school. So, essentially, this is the root of the problem of education in the United States, is the fact that ever since the first state of emergency that was enacted, the United States as a country was under Lincoln, and the amendments that were enacted and brought to the Constitution were War Amendment, which means that they were supposed to be abolished or admonished after the war was over. But the perpetual state of emergency has always been in effect since that time, and every president that comes in has to sign on it, including the one that's in there, which, again, shows you that regardless to who or what, this dude and these people, regardless to what they look like, is down with it, down maintaining the same illusion and lie with everybody else. Because if they rescind the state of emergency, then that means all the police powers, Patriot Act, all that stuff they do goes away. They don't want to do that. The ultimate goal is to push the world to the brink of ultimate destruction. There's a painter named Thomas Cole. He was a naturalist painter of the 1800s, and he did a series of paintings that you can check out online called The Course of Empire. And in this series of 5 paintings, it goes through the stages, the 5 stages that empire goes through, the last one being desolation. They want a desolate world where everything is gone, and everything is in rubble, where there's no life. And then from that, they want to be able to have some type of descendant or something that comes back and produces a new life form in that period, which is insane, but it also shows you the degree of isolation that these entities feel, and they need to share that in the form of rape and pillage, which again defines who you are as someone who is not of that agenda. Therefore, you are both the target of the agenda, but at the same time, you are also the destroyer, the generator, operator, and destroyer of that. You know what I'm saying? So, right. The one with Donald Faison. So, case in point, my man, Cavalier, shout out to Cavalier, shout out to NRO, Pharaoh Z, Supernova, Treasure, the whole fam. I'm speaking to him, he calls me and he lets me know that he goes all the way out there to Europe to go do a show, and when he gets to the border, to customs, they basically ship the Hindu chick on him and send him back to America, don't let him into the country. But then on his way back, he's hearing about how a lot of so-called, specifically black entertainers, rappers, people like that, are now being targeted and being kept out of the UK specifically. Which is funny because all Harry and William and Kate and you just listen to is 50 Cent and Snoop Dogg talking about bitches ain't shit and everything else. So it's real funny, but whatever. They're targeting in the UK now. So even people who have legit, visas, like Cav already had all his stuff hooked up, and they still was hating on him. You know what I'm saying? They targeted Snoop around the time his first album came out and was hating on him for a long time. But they do that sometimes to create fervor, but also because they also going through some type of racial stuff in the UK right now in terms of some police brutality type shit. So either way, this is a trend that is part of a greater agenda because they're not targeting Kate Perry or Mahana or whoever else. And these people got rappers on their stuff. So it's showing you again the power that they see us having, but at the same time how they want to use it and circumvent it for their own means by acting like they don't want to have nothing to do with it. So it's always a condescending infatuation with these types of practices, you know what I mean? But just like there's different types of black folk, there's different types of crackers, you know, or so-called white folk. Crackers, white folks, white guys, cool ones, you know what I mean? Skinheads, hammer skins, you know, French, whatever. And all of those are ideologies manifested from nationalities that did not exist prior to 1945. The IRA was blowing up bombs and doing the same stuff that the Arabs was doing, but they was getting different coverage in the 80s than they was going at England with their whole thing because they was Caucasian. Just like when they were showing the Balkan stuff under the Clinton era, they would never really show you like the people that they was bombing because most of them people was Muslims. You know what I'm saying? So because they want to set up this pipeline through Afghanistan down into Pakistan and then into the Indian Ocean, it would allow them to create an energy source pocket for them because they've already annexed Iraq. So they could basically tear down the borders of each one of those countries if they wanted and then make it one big thing. You know, people should go back and read Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper, who, again, in my life is the only white guy that ever told me the truth directly. You know what I'm saying? Kept it all the way real. You know what I mean? Who they had to get rid of right before 2011, in which the last person to interview him was Alex Jones. Alex Jones was to Will Cooper what Jesse Jackson was to Martin Luther King. Michael Luther King. So this dude is trying to sign this legislation to make alternative healing illegal. You know. So whatever. Then the paraplegic wizard Stephen Hawking, who became paraplegic through trying to flip some crazy ritual and wound up screwing himself up. This dude basically squashed the whole heaven thing for Western society by stating that there is no heaven, that heaven doesn't exist because Earth is already in space, which is what we've been saying, in that even in the alternate or higher dimensions and lower dimensions, they are all reminiscent of energies that exist parallel to the energies that you're focusing on. So whatever we focus on in this reality, in the reality that exists simultaneously in the same space that we're in, we are focused on the opposite end. So in this reality, I'm sitting on this side, I'm sitting on the right side of the couch. In the mirror reality, I'm sitting on the left. The mirror reality is the gateway to the second and fourth dimension to meet the alternative self, because mirrors are made from quicksilver. The quicksilver has a chromosome property in it that is similar to the DRHS that exists in the melanin or melacrite enzyme that ferments into pigmentation. That is written in the Bible under the term umbrella. If you read, whenever they talk about the umbrella, they talk about melanin. which is why when this chick did the song Umbrella, you see, it was speaking to a higher resonance. While at the same time trying to evoke this Rain Man entity, which is really just another version of Asmodeus or any of the other foul ones that they try to incorporate through a process of ritual they call the Grimatria, which on the night of Valpurgis, the night that these two people went through the chemical wedding, they practiced the ritual of Hieros Ganimos, which is the old arcane ritual developed during the 1300s in Bavaria, as well as in Salamanca under the Almoravid dynasty, that eventually grew into the Hashemite practice. The Hashemite practice is really just the Hashemites are like the dark Sufis. So if this was Star Wars, the Sufis would be like the Jedi, and the Hashemites would be the Sith. So they both practice the same thing. They just deal with the polarity. So one is an assassin, one is a warrior king or priest king. But both light and dark Sufis that came out of the Batashi set, the original Batashi set, was all founded from an original woman. Her name escapes me right now. But again, they don't talk about that. She was the founder of the Order of the Rose that eventually became known as the Rosicrucians under Francis Bacon. So we already went through the stages of heaven and realms and spheres and ethers and planes and galaxies and dimensions and frequencies. All of those things are the same thing. They all boil down to the same energy, because you, the energy traveling through all of those things at the same time, is experiencing all of those things at the same time, even though you may not realize it. That's why they say ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that saying is older than the American government. That's an old Wabanaki saying. The law, meaning the law of Gaianashqua, or the law of Guana, which is what they call the Wado law of the practice of give and take, which is essentially the law of correspondence that was being practiced by these people who use totems like crows and ravens and foxes and things like that to come together to understand how these forces can be used for the great good of the people. So we created this thing called the Chitwa Society, or was also known as the False Face Society, that Moors would go to in what today we would perceive as like superhero costumes. We would go there and we would have our masks on, and we would represent whatever deity or house or clan or whatever, and each one would display their power. And in that, alliances and whatever would be made, and then we would go back to our particular place, and we probably wouldn't talk again for like 100 years. So that is an agrarian lifestyle, an agrarian monarchy, or an agrarian monarchical theocracy that has a pantheistic faith with a monotheistic universal outlook. Which is what reality is, essentially. So these people who create these handlers in these different situations that we're building on, we're not talking about them from a specific level of what they actually mean to whoever's involved in that, even though we're not. We're talking about the symbolic representation of what is being played out and the outcome of and how it will ripple into the greater psyche of the universe around that we happen to be a part of. So if we know where to look, then it makes what you're trying to find easier. Therefore, the path of least resistance is what we need to focus on to get there. Thereby, understanding how these things correspond, we automatically have negated the possibility of the ramifications of what those events manifested as manifesting in our life. Because we've already localized the outcome or the origin of where all of this crap is coming from. We have all the faces and everything. If you want to see the face of the actual beast, get you a wall and cut out all the faces of all of the people that have been a part of the so-called banking elite from the creation of Jekyll Island to now. And you will see the complete face of the beast itself and all of its satellite things, meaning the logos and the celebrity sponsors and all of these people, because all of these people are related to these people some way too. There's no such thing as nepotism because the society itself runs on that. They only appear like they don't want to, hook themselves up because they work together on the low, because they go to lodge and whatever else on weekends or whatever. It doesn't matter. So by the same process, this dude Hawking is saying that there's no heaven. A mini job is being brought up on charges. Him and his handlers is being brought up on charges for practice of sorcery when he was flashing the Illuminati signs and all of that, because they're trying to root, these Arab people's trying to root out the so-called collaborators with the Illuminists being the tentacles of the octopus, being the intelligence groups of the ruling so-called elite on the material realm. We must always throw that in there, that they only are slipping that on the material realm, in the realm that they influence people to want to be down with them. So at the same time that all of this is happening, my brother Rashad hollered at me about a rash. He noticed a rash of dead celebrities being found in their hotels in the past 3 weeks. It's been like 8 dead celebrities, yo. Kind of like B-list type people, but they just wasting. Same way at the beginning of the new season of young congressmen and women that came into the United States Congress, there was a rash of killings in Capitol Hill. They found at least 10 bodies in different places within a month and a half of the actual class coming in. People, a chick spacking out a secretary. Actually, she used to be the secretary of the chick that got blasted in the head, the Gifford chick. She allegedly was the secretary at one time of her, but she was in Washington, allegedly was backing out of her car, her driveway, and I guess hit some flammable liquid and the whole car ignited. So, this is some of the, it's like Biggie and Tupac, they don't know. They just, it was some type of liquid, somebody brought it there. So, who brought it there? Somebody knows. So, moving on, there's an old Christian set that started out of the Christian Science movement. People that don't know, there's a movement called the Christian Science Monitor, their paper is called the Christian Science Monitor, but they have Christian Science reading rooms. And it was started by a young theosophist named Mary Eddy Baker Parker. Anyway, she basically created the first Church of the Christ Scientists, in which they built on the scientific aspect of Christ being the divine nature of man. And this, again, was a concept being brought forth by Pascal Beverly Randolph at the time, of which he allegedly was familiar to him. So in that, she developed a movement in which these Christian scientists created basically a Freemasonic type of organization, yet with an open faith in the form of people from different faiths who come and read in their reading room and read their books about Christian Science. So the Christian Science people, of which there are many members of, you have to understand, in Caucasian society, they won't tell us this, but they function where, like, you could be, like, born a Jew, but then, like, when you get successful in business, but you become, like, a Catholic or, like, a Muslim, or, like you tack on religion the way you tack on, like, degrees. Because in the end, on that level of success, you got to be in the club with them. That's just how it works. That's why everybody on that level of success acts the same way. That's why to get that level of success, you have to go about the same way. How does that happen? If it's a black dude from the ghetto or a black woman from the ghetto, they come out, they work real hard to get there. Once they get there, they get there. The people love them. The people around them, their family is there with them and supporting them. And then it gets to a point when they have to start working on a new project. The reality of what happened starts to set in. And then what begins to happen is that people start to expect. Yet the expectation that's really coming is the overall pressure to have to produce. Therefore, now it goes from being an artistic thing to a business thing. Yet there's no interplay with the artist, or the child is taught how to do that. Therefore, manipulation is a key factor in the rise of any person, especially at a young age, to stardom. And because there's so many different drug addicts and pedophiles and rapists and pimps and drug dealers and Satanists and all of these people who have made the deal with a demon referred to as glamour that allows them to create an illusionary world where a person can go into it and it becomes a whirlwind and you just get thrust into shit. And then you just got to keep doing everything, because if you stop, then you won't get any more money. And then what you have will be gone. Therefore, now the expectation now goes from business, went from art to business. Now it's gone from business to failure, whether or not I'm going to be a failure and I'm going to be forgotten, which you ultimately will when you deal with entertainment, because entertainment is fleeting. It's what people want to hear in the moment. I might be in the mood for Tribe Called Quest, but then I turn it on and I want to turn it off as soon as I hear the first beat and I want to hear Redman or something. Or I turn that off and I want to hear something that's being played on the radio now. It doesn't matter, because that's the beauty of the creation, so fleeting that the only lasting thing about it is the memory that creates the actualization of the action, which is then the movement of what we perceive as time. Thereby, whoever controls that can control how people perceive time and everything else, which is why most of the people at the top of the music industry happen to be Jewish. That's not racist. That's the truth. Just like in the acting Hollywood industry, the same is the same. Yet, I've read documents in which these same companies have worked openly. I mean, at one time, the government was running Death Row Records. It was such a threat that it had to be shut down and shown to the people that it could be co-opted and used for the government. And now, today, it's owned by some old Jewish chick. We don't even listen to rap. So this Christian Science people predicted that on May 21st was the end of the world. So as we approach May 21st, we should do the knowledge to the astrological events in what she said that. You might want to check some of that stuff out. But most of it, again, is hysteria, you know what I mean? And it's window dressing for the whole 2012 thing. You know? So on June 1st, there'll be a partial solar eclipse in Gemini. You know what I mean? It's going to be very interesting. So it's a lot of twin flame energy. You know what I mean? So that would be a good time in which between now and then would be a good time to purge one of negative intentions or negative outlooks when it comes to females or males. Because now, around that time would be the best time for you to meet somebody and to have a long-lasting relationship if it's built on quality, which is true at any time, yet the stars have blessed us for a window where it's more proficient within that. And because we have these type of occurrences, like every other week, you know what I'm saying, or like seem like every 3 weeks or every 2.5 weeks there's a major event like this in which we are blessed to take part of the energy. Yet this is also where things like faith and understanding of the subtleties of nature's energies come into play, because what we put out there manifests through time and comes quicker based on how much work we put in. Therefore, it's not immediate, So, and even when it is, it can be so immediate sometimes that you forget that you put the intention out to get it, and therefore don't give thanks for it, and then dissipate the energy of it manifesting for a longer period, and then you wind up, in the same old situation. So this is, again, one of the best times to be able to, put out there what it is you really want in a mate and in yourself and actualize that. There's a May Scorpio full moon falls on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. So it's very powerful, as all, full moons are, but, this is a Scorpio. So, again, this is surprisingly military undertone, although it does not act a war. Of course, it can be a war within oneself. So it's very, very important for people to not engage in harsh argumentative type of dialogue, because it could lead into ass kickery. Also, the moon also signals emphasis on Aries, as several planets are now moving into Taurus. So being that Aries and Taurus are both horned animals, horns represent duality, and they also represent the intuitive nature of women. So this is also the intuitive nature of man, and it's in form of how one interplays or works with their sympathetic nervous system, which is your intuition. So it's really good to pay attention to that. So, this is an energy in which this full moon is kind of like moving away from so much. Yeah, it's actually moving away from Aries. Actually, as we're moving into this now secondary phase of the season, in which now, like I said, Taurus, which is also has 4, is manifesting, which is also Aset, you know what I mean? Which is also Maya. Aset is Maya, so that's also the illusion or the veil of Aset, which is what most people are under still. So we always got to do the nods to that. And in the let's say 360 degrees of wisdom, you know what I mean, there's occasionally times when society has to remind the country of what it has achieved and what it hasn't. You know what I mean? So you'll find a lot of time in which you are noticing, like, things about the situation, usually political situations, but specifically political situations. But if you pay attention to some of the subtleties in your own personal life, you'll see some of the subtext that you've been missing for a long time in a lot of your relationships, which is beneficial at this time because you don't want to enter or keep old relationships that are stagnant at any attempt, no matter what type of relationship it is. You'll hear other people tell you, that's your mother, that's your father, and that's true. And as a parent that's been estranged from their children, I can totally understand, you know what I mean, the anger that they may feel eventually towards me. Yet, as having no control over the overall situation other than having to go to an extreme in which they may eventually put in some type of danger, you got to let it be how it is. Yet it still doesn't change the fact that there's still time missing and that the person who stole this time has been using time as a means to alter the perception of a child. Now, because I'm just one original man that's going through it, there's, 100 million men and women that's going through the same thing. Yet this is a time in which a lot of that comes into a greater understanding in the people, and in that we'll be able to further put ourselves in a greater situation in which we can't also allow that which is detrimental to our overall understanding to impede what it is we're universally trying to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? So it's in our strategic interest to pay attention to a lot of the stuff that's going on, because regardless of whatever it is they think they're doing physically, the Creator got the master plan. And as ambassadors of it, as physical archetypes of it, we're the only ones that can have anything to say, because we were the only ones that was here at the very beginning, even though we don't remember. Yet we remember enough to know that we wasn't born from no damn ape. Yet there are original people who feel they are. So maybe they know something about themselves that I don't. So if you're an original person and you believe in evolution and Darwinism to the point that you believe that you evolved from an ape, then you believe that God is an ape. Whereas I believe that God created apes. See? Yet apes were not created in the image of God. You understand? So, because things like God matter to me, they become matter in the things that I do and create. Therefore, matter becomes physical, physical becomes matter, matter becomes non-physical in terms of the perception of the people as it is being brought out. So, this is the best time to be able to interpret these types of conundrums that exist, being that, Scorpio is really going to be unfolding imaginary worlds, So this is a time where you with things where that take you into other realms, but those things that you create that take you there are even better than the things you just veg out on and let yourself go. because now it's about finding your inner creature, inner fictitious, mythic, super, whatever exists within you. Because now is the time when, like I was saying, the Kittiwah, the original Kittiwah false faith society would get together. And we would come from all of the different 13 zones and display what we were able to do, which was also a example of what we had learned and what we had developed up until, this time. So this is, a time for universal show and prove. So the degree of the sun for this full moon is towards the 23 degree, which can be seen as like your ability to find value in things that are ancient. If you don't have an altar now is the best time to set one up. This is also a time where, because Mercury is on a ill degree, it's on Taurus at 3 degrees, which could represent effortless progress. You know what I mean? Almost effortless progress to rewards, to where one wants to end up. So wherever you want to go, this Mercury, how you communicate is how you'll be able to get there. So the more positive your communication, the more you'll attract negative, which is good to a degree, because most people are. You know what I'm saying? Most people are 85%, so that, well, let's say 95%. So that means they are susceptible, if anything. It doesn't mean they're not good people, whatever. It just means that they're susceptible to programming more than you are. So that just means that your communication, the more positive, will attract, they will be attracted to you, because the positiveness in them is what wants it, but the negativeness in them is attracted too, because the negativeness is attached to a greater negativeness that they are attached to. So it has to get intelligence, you see what I'm saying, on who and what we are when they come around. So they may come in and, listen or whatever and start off cool, but then eventually, be like, nah, I can't fuck with that. Because whatever's in them is not really gelling with what they may have to not be a part of. Family and material and life possessions are very finite, and they keep the soul anchored. And that's the fixed energy of Taurus, manifesting in the stubborn, bullish, that's so stubborn that the bull would rather run around the damn ring instead of just realizing that all it needs to do is charge one aspect of the fence and it can break out. So this is the energy of Venus, again, which is used in war. When they went to war with Libya, the black chick, who is the cousin of Condoleezza Rice, was used. She was wearing all green. Green is the color of war in malefic and horrific states. She's the one who declared war for the United States from the same so-called president who just won a peace prize. So you tell me who's really doing what. So because Venus is at Taurus at 2 degrees, you know what I mean, it's going to bring more of a reverence for nature. So we got to look out for things like more floods and flashes of like emotion, short circuits, new memories, old repressed memories, altars being broken in the mind, psychic awareness, hot flashes, you know what I mean? It's going to be kind of ill in certain places, But after the full moon, Venus moves to conjunct Mercury at Taurus on 3 degrees, which is which is communication, beauty, and intuition coming together in a culmination of understanding of where you want to end up, where you want to be. So this is the best time to have like a mass dream journey where, let's say, on tomorrow night at 12, whenever you go to bed, everybody is in a different place. Wherever you go to bed, think about the Super Heru Radio Grand Central Station place we talked about, which is really the example of the non-physical example of the species mind pattern. So Grand Central Station, which is Grand Central Station in this reality, is a physical representation of a non-physical Grand Central Station where the same purpose is used. So the same reason why you would go to Grand Central Station in the waking world is why you would go there in the dream world. So we could all agree that when we go to the dream, we all agree to meet right under the main spot that's under the astrological calendar. Let's say we all agree to meet there, we go to sleep. And whoever realizes we dreaming first puts everybody else on. This is the best time to be able to do something like that. So we'll see. So there's going to be a huge surge of optimism in us specifically because Aries is going to be at 27 degrees Jupiter. So it's going to be an expansive imagination where a lost opportunity, where things that you may have lucked out on, kind of come back around and you get exonerated or forgiven, or released, changing people's mind for the better. So Mars also is on a kind of funny degree at Taurus at 5th degree. So this is the time to look out for, letting go of longer things, getting rid of the past, giving up grievances, you know what I mean? Receiving gifts that come from loss or separation, divorce, redundancies, near-death experiences, inheritances, realizations of futility. So Aries people, Scorpio people look out. People with that fire, look out for situations that try to evoke some type of emotion, because this would be the time where things try to get on some transit. So definitely look out for that. All right. Homie. Thanks so much. Sorry, just wrote, say he tried to call in, trying to see if he called back. Try again, homie. Crazy. Yeah, they be hating. But we're going to find a better apparatus and, relocate. Nothing. He's trying to call in, but he's not here, not being able to. I'm already seeing it. Yeah, we just gotta just watch out. Also, and just watch out for those people around you that easily, get the knee-jerk reaction, because this is what they're looking for. They want to, because they don't really see themselves as that. You know what I'm saying? They don't really see themselves as being laborious in your life, But anybody that you think of when I'm talking about this is the person or persons that you need to do the knowledge to, because you're too young. We're all too young to be experiencing that type level of succubus energy. Because the higher the light, the more they want to feed sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And so that creates a give and take, pseudo give and take relationship that doesn't end out good in your favor. It always ends up with you having to revalue and reevaluate all of the stuff that you've already set up. I hate you. Yeah. So I think we'll get into a call. See what's up. We gotta free it up. Peace, you on Superhero Radio?
Hello?
770. Peace, what's up, Queen?
Hey, peace.
Hey, what's up, Queen? How you doing?
Great. Peace and blessings to you and the family.
Thank you. Peace and blessings to you, too.
I wanted to make a comment on something you said last week about, you may feel like a shadow following you when you start running from it. Well, there was a movie out, Vanishing on 7th Street.
Yeah.
And basically, that's what that was. I'm like, wow. And my question is, I've been looking a lot at the eyes of people, and some people have really big pupils, and their retinas are really thin. What is that about? Is that non-humans or?
Well, there's allegedly the government classifies 16 levels of human now. So it was originally me and you, and then, everybody else. But now it's 16 different versions. So, the bigger, as the darker, or the bigger the pupil is darker, the more dark energy exists in the nerve. So it could mean that this person has a huge pockets of dark energy stored in them that is expanding into their eyeballs, or it could mean that dark energy has a consciousness that is expanding into their consciousness and will eventually take them over, Or it could just mean that that's a defect of how they was born. It depends. You have to run tests on them to see,
Okay, because, I think that's weird because I've been seeing a lot lately, especially, watching television, and it's mostly, white people.
Yes.
And it's I'm like,
okay,
is that a robot?
So,
or...
seeing them now, that's different because the melanin that they exhibit is not the same type of melanin that you have. So, our melanin is pH balanced. Their melanin lacks pH. It lacks it because it doesn't have no pigment. So it is consistently, the melanin that's there comes up to the surface, but it don't have no pigment, so it's blank. have it. They have the ability. They don't really have it then. So their version of it is called EU melanin, right? Because their melanin trait in its beginning was locked up in the EU. EU means hillside. You see what I'm saying? Rope means binded in. That's where we had them locked down, and that's where their gene basically was allowed to ferment and come to existence, but it was recessive in nature based upon the lack of active sentient melanin in their physical vessels, which then made them insane. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, like, they don't really have a choice. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, they don't really have a choice in, like, the extreme things that we talk about them. Like, you know, when comedians say, you know, white people is crazy. They just do this. They just do that. We different. That is the reality because they feel more human the closer to death they are. You see what I'm saying? So the closer to death or on the verge of death, they feel more alive. The closer to death we get, the more we want to be alive. The more closer to death they get, they want to get death and then keep going. You know what I'm saying? They don't have no balance. They don't have no, you know. And then anybody that think like that, you see what I'm saying, follows the same nature. So black people who think like that calcify their own pineal glands, and then they become a part of white society, which means they can't be down with us. So when they walking down the street with their white man or their white girl, they look straight ahead, and then the white man look right at you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Because the white man knows that he is showing you, not just you as you, but you as us, the people, I got another one. And the black person is thinking, man or woman, or is on some, I know I'm playing myself, but I'm doing me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow. Yeah. Okay, well, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Queen, for calling, man. I appreciate it.
Peace.
Peace. Go to another one. Peace, you on Super Heru Radio? 753.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, King. How you doing?
All right, I want to ask you a couple questions. I'm going to be brief so somebody else can get on. I listen to all your shows, and I constantly listen to them. And one of your shows you was talking about that sometimes, and you said they was going to do a time traveling, trying to bring us back to the 80s or the 90s. And I noticed in my life that I've been watching a lot of movies from 98, and me and my queen, we've been fighting about a lot of shit that happened 10 years ago. So that's like in the 97, 98. So my question is this. How can I get all the negative energy away from me from the 90s and all the shit that happened in the past? Because we've been married 22 years. And sometimes you think about that negativity and you bring that energy back. So how can you get that energy away and start focusing on where we need to be going?
One way is you could do a physical banishing ceremony together, whereas you get the whole, you write down whoever's name and whatever experience that you experience or whatever negative experiences you've experienced that you want to let go of and get rid of. You write a forgiveness letter to yourself or to those people who was involved. And you write one, she write one, and you seal it. And when you seal it with the intent that you're letting that aspect of it go. And you literally put a cork in it. You know what I'm saying? Crumple it up or whatever. Put a cork in it. Put some dirt, put it in the bottom. Put some dirt in it, right? And throw it away. Literally like in the ocean. Can you hear me?
I appreciate it because I listen to you all the time, and I really do appreciate it. And I want another call, but I love your show, and I'm gonna try to help you out as much as possible, and keep doing what you do, brother. You're doing a lot for a lot of people out here.
I appreciate it, my brother. Thank you, and thank you, your queen too as well, man.
All right, peace.
Peace. Yeah, the ultimate thing is to work to let things go and be honest about the times in which you weren't always in the best light. That's when you show the character who you really are. Like everybody has done something that they don't want, quote unquote, on blast. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has had a moment or a picture of something of themselves where, they had a crazy haircut or a crazy outfit or whatever. And those times or those images of you represent a time in which you were more creative. Because usually when you look at those pictures and you feel embarrassed, you're really more embarrassed at other people's ridicule of what you may have been wearing, but they was wearing the same thing in the same pictures that you was in at that time. So really, at the time when you were most imaginative or coming into that imagination, we weren't at the realization of the weight of what we were really against. Now that we are conscious of it fully, or becoming fully conscious of it, we never get to the point where you realize how crazy everything can become and how insane, the whole thing gets. It literally creeps up on you, son. Literally, the shit is like, it's like a constant battle, a constant trying to figure out what the hell is going on and why is it that the more I work to not get caught up in what is going on, the more it seems like it literally is right there. It's right creeping up, right up on you. And it's like the more conscious you become of it and the more you work to not be a part of it, the more it seems the people who are around you to help you commiserate about it are on the opposite team. And that's okay, too. Everybody chooses their side in the end. And it's not up to us to judge whether or not these people are actively okay in their decision-making. Yet anybody that serves the beast is going to get fed on because the nature of the beast is to destroy itself. No matter how much money, no matter how many community centers and whatever else is opened up, how many people is getting charity baseball games and football games where the money never gets to the hood. That's a good question. Did a piece to Sia White. She just asked, where else can you do the thing in the note if you don't have a ocean or a river or something next to you? You can bury it in a place that nobody's going to find it. Outside in the earth. What would be dope is if you could find a place, bury it as deep as you can. That's the issue too. As deep as you can, and plant a tree on top of it. You know what I'm saying? And then every so often go by the tree and drop some water on it, or wipe the leaves off, or take the garbage that somebody dropped on it. You know what I'm saying? And see what happens. Go to another caller. Peace. You on Super Heru Radio? 864.
Hello.
Peace. What's up, Queen?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, Queen. How you doing?
Great. I wasn't really expecting to get through tonight. So, excuse me. Thanks. Excuse me if I'm a little ill prepared.
Okay.
Yeah, but I heard you mention a few things earlier, and it just really connected with some of the shit I've been going through lately. Because, you know, I don't know if it's, you know, correct to really claim these things, because, you know, I'm a Taurus woman, and I don't know, I just come to find out that, like, I've always been kind of disconnected from the norm, you know what I mean? Like, even on up to my late teens, because I just turned 25 in late April, you know, in my late teens. And thank you. Even up to my late teens and in some of my college years, you know, when I got the social norms, social norm recognitions, like, you know, became, you know, won a pageant, done a debutante ball shit, you know, some other shit. Like, I still felt, you know, disconnected and alone. And it's always been that disconnection that kind of made me recognize that I was different from others, you know. So
even amongst other black people.
Especially amongst other black people, because
exactly, right? Isn't that
when
whack?
I did
that's so whack.
When I did my internship in DC, you know, I felt mad, disconnected, and isolated, because I refer to it as fashion anxiety. I wasn't really with that program, you know what I mean? Like, my wardrobe can be more attributed to an art student than it can, you know, a socialite. So whenever I would go out, I'd always feel excluded and, you know, kind of, you know, looked down on. Yeah, and judged. Yeah, basically. It was always by my own people, despite how pro-black I've always been, and how pro-black I've always been raised.
All the white people be on your joint.
Yeah, white people love me. You know, it was weird. I found a weird.
They be willing to help you.
Yeah, I
help you. They be doing all types of shit.
Yeah, and I even found a weird Asian clique. I found a weird Asian clique while I was in D.C., you know, and that's kind of where I had my social network there, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's
where
black.
I was.
Yeah.
Because they're black. You know what I'm saying? Like you're Asiatic, they're Asians. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
So, you know, and it's real. Like, they know the statues they grew up looking at. You know what I'm saying? They know, son. They know. So, that's the hard part.
And I'm just wondering if that's what's keeping me disconnected now. You know what I mean? Because, you know, I've settled down in North Carolina, you know, in Charlotte, and, you know, it's a pretty nice city, but, you know, it's not too far from when I went to school, but I'm going back. It's like, strangely, I have those periods in my life where it's like I get socially isolated, even if I'm close to a lot of people I know, you know. Yeah. And you were talking about emotions and you know, old repressed memories, and I'm having all those flashbacks of feeling judged in D.C., and I'm having these emotions.
You know, because they're going through. That's the Taurus. That's your Taurus at the degree that I was talking about, where you just are at a crossroads of your own thing. Where it's like you've been walking around. If you imagine you're a bull, you've been walking around this huge pen that you've been in, and you just realize that you could just push the gate out and walk and go into the pasture that you've been looking at for all these years. However, you don't know what's in that pasture. You don't know how far that place goes. But you know what this pen is like. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
This is us in physical reality looking at the reality that we are about to inherit. And it's scary because none of our elders have prepared us for this. All of the time and tradition that was given to us was not given to us for us to remember to the point of ritual. Ritual was created as a means to remember. So there was a time when we didn't need to write anything down and build pyramids and all that. We were and are all of that. So ultimately, you as this Taurus, as a representation of Hathor, as a representation of Isis, as a representation of the black woman, as dark matter, as like all of these things that you're expected to be as an original woman, right?
Right.
You are at a stage where you're weighing all of that understanding of you being all of that and who you are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But at the same time, you got all these other people that want you to be the person that they remember you being.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? They need you to be that. But see, they need you to be that because they can't evolve past where they are, and they always know that you could. So the entity that they have inherited is the same entity that is telling them to shut her down. She can't do that. That's not really practical for her. Nah, that's not real. She should know better. She should get a better job. She should do this. She should do that. Her hair's too long. It's too short. Her butt's too big. Her breast's too small. Her waist too thin. She's not eating. She's all of this stuff that they put on specifically black women is not half as much as the shit that black women put on themselves in these unrealistic expectations of what other people's opinion means more than their own.
Right.
Whereas black men don't care about anybody else's opinion, really, but the black woman. But he can't tell her that because he don't want to act like he need her either. And that's the damn problem. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's fronting. Everybody's acting like everybody could do it, or everybody got the answer in their group, in their order, in their family, in their clique, and they think is the only one that's making it happen. And it's sad. But you're not alone. You know what I'm saying? You're not crazy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're not seeing things. These things are really happening to you. The things that you're saying are actually happening, whereas the shit that most people say has never happened. You see the difference in reality? So this is why when you say something directly to somebody that can't hear you, because you're speaking on a different frequency than they. That's why, like, you have to, you notice you be having to repeat yourself all the time to these people?
I may even try to talk to these people. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in the times you did, you always wind up being like, you say some shit, and they be like, huh? They're like, oh, what you mean by that? Or, nah, I don't get it. Like, what don't you get? Like, it's real simple. You know what I mean? But this is what I mean. Like, we have trained ourselves to make it more intricate than it is because we want to live like white people. We want it to be where they at. And white people want to do the opposite.
Yeah, and I mean, and if anything, that's what I recognize about my peers, and it's like they're striving for all this social grandeur, and, you know, I'm the only one kind of really recognizing that all you want to be is a black version of a white person, and it's really separating myself from that. That's isolated me.
That is called Yakub. You see? That is Yakub. That is the overall experiment. A lot of people believe that experiment was about creating these white people and this and that. To me, it was the opposite. It was about to see what was going to happen to the degeneration and the eventual regeneration of the people who figured out that it was really about seeing if you could turn the black man into a devil more than the white man into a man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It was the reverse. Whereas everybody been focused on where the white man came from, where was he, an animal, was he an ape? Yeah, he goes to that, you know? And he'll tell you. He make movies like Shaggy Dog, Sasquatch, you know what I'm saying? Werewolf. This nigga can't wait to be a monster. He can't wait to eat people and stuff on film and stuff like that. Like, they live for that, you know? Because that's them really expressing who they are to get a chance to really go in. You know?
Yeah,
but because original people that...
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, this is going to come after you finish your point.
I was just going to say, and then what they do is original people, black people, don't really know how deep it go like that until they really get there. And then they're forced to kind of look at themselves like, am I really going to do this, Halle Berry? Am I really going to allow this man to really have sex with me in real life? Yes. I want the Oscar that bad. So what she's saying is, yes, I want Satan that bad. And that's how simple it is. You know? But you know it's just fixing that because anybody who gets that shit never works again. They never do a good movie again. And she never really did a good movie, really. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, Halle Berry. But she was never really, she was kind of like a white girl.
Yeah.
You know? But she's a white girl. She's not a black woman. You know what I'm saying? Like Paula Patton, these people are white girls. Like, I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
These girls is white. You know what I mean? Like Rihanna, these people are white girls. These are not black women. These people are not black women.
They're monopolizing on the energy, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they started off black, but, so did Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Look what I got him. You know what I mean? It didn't work out for him too well. So, again, it's the same thing. And they all do the same thing. They all go through the same process. They start out dope. We like their music. They come out with 3 good albums. The next album is not really that good, or they take too long to put it out, or they come out with a movie and the movie's not really dope, and they try to come back with a new album that's not really that hot, so they try to make some type of controversy, and then, some type of, like, either they don't have no panties on, or they're getting divorced, or whatever, and the next thing you know, they're on Entertainment Tonight talking about, well, I'm getting over it, I'm doing my new album. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is how the whole thing goes. If you're willing to debase yourself, especially as a black woman, you can do anything you want. You can become Oprah. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But in that, you're married to inbred Stedman. You're, on the low, got this relationship with these women. You know what I'm saying? And you're doing your thing.
Right. And, well, I just wanted, to let someone else get the chance to add their wisdom or whatever, but I do have a question. I will be visiting New Orleans later on this month.
Dope.
Yeah, and the last time I went to New Orleans, I was, 13 or 14 years old, and when I took pictures in my hotel room, I had tons of orbs around me, on my shoulder, in my face, everywhere around me. And
you have that picture still?
Yeah, I still have that picture. It's at my grandmother's house, so it could be really anywhere. So I have it, but I don't have it, if you know what I mean. So
I know what you mean.
But I want to do something like, get my house read and maybe my palm read. But the thing is, it's when I started my locks, I didn't even want anyone else to start it because I didn't want to be connected to their energy. So
that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
How could I do that? Get my house read, and maybe my palm read or whatever professionally, and not be connected to someone else's negative energy if that's there.
Well, right now in time, it's very interesting in that energy because it's not really how New Orleans was. So there's a lot of displaced spirits and stuff. It's still like it was when Katrina hit, really. You know what I'm saying? They ain't really do nothing. And it's going to be like that the same way Watts is like that today. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain parts of the country where they always going to keep death proof because they got to keep the bleakness of what America can be if you don't play ball. The ghetto to send somebody to, a prison to lock somebody into. So, like we was watching this thing with Elephant Man, he was saying how the ghetto is really a good place, essentially, because there's good people in it. That's why they're in the ghetto. But they have all of this drive, with no money. They have all this ambition, but there's no money. They have all of this reality and imagination and creativity, but there's no money. So what they got to do is debate. We got to debase ourselves and sing and dance or some shit for these crackers to give us some money to start something. Because the black people that already have money are part of orders and situations that don't want to give us money unless we're getting it the way that they say we should get it. You see what I'm saying? Whereas white people who have money like that, they give to their kids whether their kids want it or not. Whether the kids have a plan for it or not. Whether they approve it or not. Whether the kid knows how to run a business. Here's $2 million. Here's a trust fund. Do something with the rest of your life. Here's $10,000 to get started. We don't have that in the black community because the shit that we had in the black community like that was attached to the organized black crime thing that we had, but these Boule niggas was the ones who shut that down. So I'm not advocating crime. I'm just saying that Western civilization that's based on racial inequality, each one of these racial groups has their own version of the mafia. The one version that we had to be just utterly destroyed in order for the rest of these ones to run, you know. So, right, and these ones ain't for us. So even though it was Bumpy Johnson was still giving money to Lucky Luciano. See what I'm saying? And instead of these niggas picking up Bumpy Johnson, they pick up Lucky Luciano. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a dichotomy of ignorance that is perpetuated based upon people debasing themselves to get money. So if we can create something where we can have something that is substantial on the level of these things, but not function in the same way that those things function, then we truly have something that's totally different. But I don't know if we can get to something totally different if we're doing all of the same things that we've been doing right now. Because all that proves is that we're insane. Because the definition of insanity in Western civilization is anybody who keeps doing the same thing and expecting a different result but doesn't get one. So that's us as a people, you know what I mean? But when we say us as a people, we're not talking about every black person in the world. We're talking about those black people in the world that has some semblance of what we're talking about.
Right.
You see? And ultimately, that's also the thing setting it back because there's still a competing ideology among us all. You know, where certain people need to be disproven in order to be validated. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In order for other people to be validated.
Yeah, I don't mean to, my people from or in DC, but that's one of the reasons I had to move out of there is because it was a continuous battle of ideologies. You can't have a regular conversation with somebody. It's always a battle of wits. It's always, talking about work or, how important they are. I'm like, damn, can we talk about some nigga shit? Something
right.
that's not really
some real shit, right?
Yeah.
No. They want to bring their work home.
Yeah, exactly. And when I had, and when I talked with an old girlfriend who's recently gotten work up there, and she's been up there for 4 months now, it was a completely different vibe. You know what I mean? And I knew what got her.
Probably loved it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they love it.
They love it.
Well, when I was there, I was like, okay, shit, I can't wait till this summer internship is over. It's. I just couldn't be real, And
that's the problem. It's like the more you work to maintain a certain degree of integrity, the more it's like people act like you're hating on them, like you don't want to do, or like you're judging them somehow.
Right. I mean, well, shit, even I am judging them. I'm just returning the energy I'm getting back.
Right. You're giving back. Right. You're giving them what they're giving. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like, we're talking to these people. We're still under the illusion that we're talking to human beings or that we're talking to people who live in a form of civilization in which we all hear each other and respect each other's views and opinions. Because we function like that. We function in the level of the high spheres. So this is not a hierarchy thing. It becomes a hierarchy thing when it's material. In the non-material, the hierarchy thing is just the way things are. You know, that's why the whole Lucifer thing was so crazy for them, because for this entity to, let's say, rebel against the natural way of things is like, you know, the earth saying, well, I don't want to spin this way no more. I want to spin the other way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like unheard of. So it's a downgraded energy that is manifested in these people. So once we get past the idea that we're dealing with people the way that we used to think people were, we'll find ourselves in a lot better position. Because like I said, those of us that feel isolated should be the ones practicing on the mental exercises the most.
Okay.
So in times when you're there and you're in, like really work on your meditative state and literally building a reality for yourself. Like we as spiritual beings should be able to do that in a sense anyway. Create your own altars first. So God forbid you get abducted or they try to do whatever. These altars is already in place, you see what I'm saying, that block out whatever demonic entity that they want to implant. So in the end, you got to kill me because you can't possess me. You see what I'm saying? And with the black woman, they want to possess you. They want you to always be on the pole, you know.
Right.
You know, even the conscious one. You see what I mean? Sometimes them more than the 85. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like because they're complicit. And the same with the men. Like rest in peace for the brother M-Bone from Cali Swag District. This brother's 22 years old. That's the #1 record in the world, in the country and all that. And gets killed in the drive-by. Some dude just roll up in the thing and just shoot him while he's sitting in the driver's seat. Like, why him? You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of that going on in the hip-hop game on the low, too, where a lot of these young cats coming up, they act like they with these dudes, but really they're getting cool with them to feed on them, and also to eventually set them up for the sacrifice. You know? Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
Like Soulja Boy playing in Juice, like you remaking Juice. Like you see what I'm saying? Like niggas is remaking Juice. Like that's gonna be the new thing now. You're gonna remake Boys in the Hood, Men in Society. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like come on, we haven't evolved at all. You know, so depopulation becomes a thing where it's like it ain't even about like saving all black people. It's about those people, black people, who realize that they're gonna have to save themselves. And those will be our people. You know what I mean? So we don't really even know our real community yet. We getting to know each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking my call there. But I've been needing to just get some positive energy, and I'll be sending some positive energy to you, or as they say in the South, I'll be praying for you. So
thank you, Queen. If you ever need to email or need a word or whatever, our email is houseofl@hotmail.com. You could always email us anytime. And anytime, man. So be well. And again, you're not alone. We're all out here.
Right. Right. All right, man. Well, peace.
Peace. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's all broken up, So, the death and resurrection of this Cthulhu / Osiris / Hiram ritual / the death of Abraham ritual that they pulled, where they tell you to kill this dude and they didn't. Scandal is part of the ritual of defacing the ceremony of the sanctity of the office. See, the true purpose, the true ritual of satanic magic is to mock and pervert and to make everyone believe flawlessly that what you're doing is the real shit when you know and everybody else don't know that it's not. That's Iago in Othello. It's to be able to manipulate and get off on the manipulation of the destruction of someone else by mocking the very things that they hold sacred. So the seemingly flawless surgical insurgence into this place called Pakistan is really a move to destabilize the country. Pakistan is a sovereign nation. Pakistan got nuclear bombs, a running nuclear system. They was about to go to nuclear war with India a couple of years ago. But the Indians don't like the Pakistanis, so they don't care. Because the Hindi government is still a colony of the British or the British government. So this intrusion into sovereign territory is a mandate based upon 9/11, which is based on a lie. So everything that people believe, everything that people is dying and shooting and killing for is a lie. It's an utter lie. And because the lie is being perpetuated now by a black man, but at the same time the black man is the most dejected man in the country, it ain't like since this dude been in there, anything new has happened for us as a people. Other than we get to go to the White House a couple of times and we can say, hey, we living vicariously through this person. They ain't really doing nothing for us. You can't. You won't. So whatever may or may not be done for us in the future based on this dude is irrelevant to what's happening to them now. And the Masonic way of we perpetually make things seem one way when they're really something else is played out, man. That's feminine. That's worse than wearing skinny jeans. That's worse than wearing, chains and stuff from your jeans. That's worse than ear piercings and all of that. I'd rather do with tattoos and all of that over space and he's the realest dude in the world about himself or who he is or who she is. Whether they're racist or whatever else, if that's what they want to be, then let them be that. So long as they ain't trying to extend that to me, they're not thinking myself or them. If anything, they're verifying. Yet that don't mean that I got to be a savage like them and degenerate to their level if they're not being like that to me. That's civilization. That's my art. So, again, anybody that want to holler at the House of L at hotmail.com, HOUSEOFEL at hotmail.com, or holler at check out our website at www.aseer.com. Tears is spelled TIERS.com. Anybody interested in our classes that's coming up, please holler at us at houseofl at hotmail.com. And also check out www.sagaassad.com, as well as www.superheruradio.com. And thank you guys for participating in the Super Heru Dialogue. We're going to keep it going, and we're going to stay current and keep the currency of spiritual information and territorial responsibility a reciprocal agent between all of us and get where we need to go together. So thank you, everybody in the chat room, for holding us down, keeping it active. So with that, we say peace. On behalf of myself, Saga Assad, thank you for trying to call in, brother. We'll see you on Friday. Everybody pass the word through Twitter, through whatever else you can. Let everybody know we'll be on this Friday. Again, we're on every other Friday. So we're going to be on this Friday coming up. Same time, same space. So any questions about the classes, again, holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com. And thank you for all of the support. Peace.